Good morning, everyone. My name is Ilham Ainuddin, and I am a lecturer in business administration at Diponegoro University. Today, we will discuss one of the most important topics in international business, which is international market entry strategy. This topic is very important because when companies expand beyond their domestic markets, they face many strategic decisions. The way they enter a foreign market can determine whether they succeed or fail. In today's session, we will explore the concept of international market entry strategy, different forms of entry modus, advantages and risks of each strategy, and how companies choose the most appropriate strategy. I encourage you to think critically during this session. Imagine yourself as a manager who wants to expand a business globally. Let us begin with the basic concept. According to Hill 2023, international market entry strategy refers to how a company enters and operates in foreign markets. There are several key considerations. First, political and economic risk. Different countries have different levels of stability. For example, entering a developed country like Japan is very different from entering a politically unstable region. Second, cost and control. Some strategies require high investments but offer more control. Others are cheaper but involve less control. Third, level of long term commitment. Companies must decide whether they want short term market testing or long term investment. Fourth, destination country regulations. Each country has different legal requirements, such as foreign ownership limits or licensing rules. Now, let's look at the main goals of entering international markets: expanding markets, reaching more customers, increasing economies of scale, reducing production costs, accessing global resources such as raw materials, labor, or technology. For example, many multinational companies move production to countries with lower labor costs to increase efficiency. So, in summary, international market entry strategy is not just about entering a market, it is about making strategic decisions based on risks, costs, and opportunities. Now, let's move to the different forms of entry strategies. There are five main types. 1. Exporting. 2. Foreign direct investment, FDI. 3. Joint venture. 4. Strategic alliance. 5. Licensing and franchising. Each of these strategies has different levels of risk, control, investment. For example, exporting, low risk, low investment. FDI, high control but also high risk and investment. So, companies must carefully choose the strategy that aligns with their goals and capabilities. This is the core trade off in international business. Let's start with the simplest strategy: exporting. Exporting means selling products to foreign markets without establishing production facilities in that country. For example, an Indonesian company exporting coffee to Europe. Now, let's look at the advantages. Relatively low risk, small initial investment. This makes exporting a good option for companies that are just starting international expansion. However, there are also weaknesses: high logistics costs, dependence on local partners. For instance, shipping costs, customs duties, and delays can reduce profitability. Also, companies often rely on distributors or agents in foreign markets, which means less control over marketing and customer relationships. So, exporting is suitable for small and medium enterprises, companies testing new markets, but it may not be ideal for long term strategic control. Now, let's discuss foreign direct investment, or FDI. FDI occurs when a company invests directly in a foreign country by establishing a factory, a branch, or a subsidiary. For example, Toyota building a manufacturing plant in Indonesia. Advantages of FDI: full control over operations, direct access to the market. This allows companies to control quality, manage branding, respond quickly to customer needs. However, FDI also involves significant risks: political risks, changes in government policies, large investment, high financial commitment. For example, if a country suddenly changes its regulations, the company may face serious losses. Therefore, FDI is suitable for large companies, long term strategic expansion, market with high potential, but it requires strong financial resources and risk management. Next, we discuss joint venture and strategic alliance. First, joint venture. This is a cooperation between two or more companies with joint ownership. For example, a foreign company partnering with a local company to establish a new business entity. Second, strategic alliance. This is cooperation without forming a new entity. Companies collaborate but remain independent. Now, what are the benefits? Risk sharing, access to local knowledge, local partners understand, market preferences, regulations, culture. This is very important in international business. However, there are also risks: conflict of interest, differences in management culture. For example, disagreements in decision making or strategic direction. So, these strategies are suitable when companies want to reduce risk, need local expertise, enter culturally complex markets, but they require strong communication and trust between partners. To better understand these strategies, let us now move to real business cases. Case studies allow us to see how theories are applied in practice and how firms adjust strategies in response to market conditions. We will examine one global case and one Indonesian case. Starbucks' expansion into China is a classic example of a dynamic market entry strategy. Initially, Starbucks chose a joint venture due to cultural complexity and regulatory barriers. As the company gained experience and confidence, it acquired its local partner's stake and shifted to a wholly owned subsidiary. The results were impressive: rapid store expansion, localized menus, and stronger operational control. This case shows that entry strategies can evolve over time. From Indonesia, we look at GoTo's regional expansion, particularly into Singapore. GoTo relied on strategic alliances and local partnerships while adjusting its business model to suit local conditions. This approach helped reduce the risk of failure and allowed for faster adaptation to foreign markets. It highlights how regional expansion can be more flexible compared to global expansion. Let's conclude today's discussion. First, there is no perfect market entry strategy. Each strategy has its own advantages and disadvantages. Second, companies must consider four key factors: 1. Risk, 2. Cost, 3. Control, 4. Market characteristics. For example, high risk countries prefer low commitment strategies, high potential markets consider FDI. Finally, successful companies are flexible, adaptive. They adjust their strategies based on market conditions, competition, regulations. So, international business is not static, it is dynamic and constantly evolving. Thank you very much for your attention. Before we end, I would like to ask, if you were a manager, which market entry strategy would you choose and why? You can reflect on your risk tolerance, available resources, target market conditions. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you.